Okay, so now that we have defined financial freedom, we understand conceptually what it is and what it means. Why is it important? Why is it important that we decide for ourselves to pursue a path towards financial freedom? I have laid out several reasons why. The first is because time is a tool. It is simply a tool and a resource. It is stored energy. So when you have money, because money is our medium of exchange for the things in life that we want and need, when you have an abundance of it or an inflow that's greater than the expenses associated with how you live your life, it literally creates freedom. It creates the freedom of not having to work for the rest of your life. It creates the freedom to use your time the way that you see fit. It creates the freedom to be where you want to be and when you want to be there. And it just generally creates an overall freedom of choice as it relates to what it is that you want to do and how you want to do it and when you want to do it and with whom you want to do it. The second reason I have listed is the idea that the corporate pension and the government social security system is not guaranteed. This used to be something that corporations would use to entice employers, or rather employees, to stay and work for 20, 25, 30, 35 years. This is a system that no longer exists. It is no longer in place on the scale that it was 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. Most corporations no longer offer a guaranteed pension. And what is a pension? A pension is an employer program that provides, if you work a certain number of years committed to a company, that from the time you retire, your last day of work until the day that you die, they will give you an annuity, which is simply a monthly payment every month until the day that you die. From the day you retire until the day that you die, they will give you a fixed sum of money, oftentimes with a cost of living step up of about 2 to 4%, from the day you stop working until the day you die after a certain number of working years committed to that organization. This is a thing of the past. Additionally, if you haven't heard or read, the Social Security system, which is a similar program backed by the US government, the federal government, the idea is that this system will be insolvent, meaning that it will be bankrupt, it will be broke, and will not be able to provide that guarantee to employees in the next 20 to 30 years. So these two guaranteed systems, which would reward employees, hardworking people, after a certain period of time committed to an organization, these systems are no longer in place or will not be solvent if they are in place, particularly the Social Security system. It will not be solvent or have the adequate funding necessary to provide the American people with that guaranteed sense of monthly income after they retire. So it becomes apparent that if you want to have the funds necessary to live life on your terms after your working years are over, that you have to become responsible for and committed to building your own financial nest egg. The third reason is because all of us only have a certain number of productive working years. So I don't know about you, but I have gone into Walmart and I will see greeters at the front entrance in their, I would have to assume, their late 60s, 70s, and 80s. Now, If I work for 25, 35, 40 years, the very last thing that I would be interested in doing is standing up for 8 hours a day at a Walmart, greeting people as they come in and checking receipts on their way out. Now, that's just me. I could be an outlier. I could be unique in that situation, but I would venture to say that most people don't want to do that after they've already committed to working a full 30 to 40 years and earning an income, raising a family. That is not the way that I want to spend my golden years in life. And so you determine the number of productive years that you want to work, and you can determine how many years based on an idea that you have to set aside resources, i.e., money, to purchase assets that produce income. And when you do that, to the degree that you do that successfully, you can create for yourself a timeline that allows you to determine whether 15 years, 20 years, or 30 years is necessary for you to create the passive income that you desire based on how you envision your life after work or after your working years have come to an end. The fourth reason, which we already touched on, is the idea that you want to maximize your retired years. There's a community out there that's called FIRE, and FIRE is an acronym that stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early, where people are literally making significant sacrifices during their working years to shorten the period of time that they are required to work and aggressively investing the money that they save, so that instead of working the traditional 30 to 40 years, they are in some cases working as few as 10 to 15 years before they retire. So you have people who are literally in their mid to late 40s who have created enough passive income because they have made strategic decisions during their working years to sacrifice, save, and invest, that are retired. They are no longer required or obligated to work for a living. Their passive income exceeds their living expenses. And so when you think about that idea, 35, 40, you still have quite a long time to live, provided that you live a healthy and active lifestyle. So you're 35, 40 years old. Let's say the average lifespan in America is 85. That's another 50 years, another 40 to 50 years of life. You want to enjoy that. You want to enjoy that time. Now, even if you decide to retire at 59 and a half or in your 60s, you still have to think about it. If the average lifespan in America is 85, then you still have another 35 years of life, 25 to 30 years of life ahead of you. And based on how you lived that first 35, 45, 55, 65 years of life, the way that you live that second portion of life is going to be largely dependent upon how you lived the first half or the first 3/4 of your life. So we want to maximize and really truly enjoy the latter years in life, whether you retire at 35 or 40 or somewhere in between, or you take a more traditional route and you retire closer to 60 or 65 or 70. And the final reason that I want to discuss with you is the idea that for every dollar that we earn and every dollar that we save, the value associated with that dollar diminishes every year into the future. And this is commonly known as inflation, where we see the cost of goods and services increasing relative to the value of our dollar in exchange for those items. This is one of the most important and compelling reasons that we must begin to take aggressive action toward the attainment of financial freedom. So let's take a deeper dive into the concept that the cost of goods and services continues to rise and has continued to rise year over year. The federal government, through the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, has created the concept of the CPI, which is the Consumer Price Index. And what this is the idea that the federal government looks at a general basket of goods and services that are commonly purchased by millions of Americans, and they analyze how those items fluctuate in cost from one year to another. And what they have found consistently is that the cost of goods and services has and will continue to increase by a factor of roughly 3% year over year. So what does that mean in very real terms for you and I? That means that an item that costs $1 today will cost $1.16 in today's money 5 years from now. That an item that costs $1 today will cost $1.56 in today's money 15 years from now. That an item that costs $1 today will cost $2.09 in today's money in 25 years. So in 25 years, what costs $1 today will cost more than double in 25 years. And I use the factor of $1 because you can quite simply multiply the cost of any good or service by that factor to determine what that cost will be in today's money in subsequent years. So for instance, in 25 years, an item that costs $100 today will cost $209 in today's money in 25 years. So that is significant. And the reason why is because you have to think about it in context of how you spend money on frivolous and unnecessary items. In addition to, even on the more positive end, money that's saved in a savings account. When you spend $1 on an unessential or non-essential item, that's money that you'll never see again. It's gone. But even on the positive side of saving $1, when you think about the major banks, you're only earning a fraction of a percent on your money. So the major banks are paying you less than 0.25% on your money. Meanwhile, the cost of goods and services year over year is increasing by a factor of 3%. So every dollar that sits in a savings account is actually losing money. Your money is being devalued by sitting in a savings account and not being invested. And while society will praise you for saving money rather than spending it on unnecessary items, the truth of the matter is that if that money is not invested in an asset class that meets inflation at a minimum, or hopefully exceeds inflation, your money is actually losing value year over year. So this is a very compelling reason, and I hope it's a call to action for you to begin to understand in a very clear way that if you do not invest your money is quite literally losing value. It is quite literally losing value. And even in high yielding savings accounts, like the one that I have through Ally Bank, where I am earning 1.6 to 1.75% interest annually on the money that I have in my savings account, which for me is simply a holding place until I can find a qualified asset to put that money in, I am still earning less than half of 3%, which is the rate at which the cost of goods and services is inflated from one year to the next.